So hold the key down. Okay. Haribol, there's some echo. There's echo. Yeah.
I had to come in. Who is singing? You're singing. Yeah. Very nice. And then she's singing sounds just like your voice.
We switched at the very end. She got shy. She's like, take over.
She's also very good at Sanskrit recitation.
Yeah, she's good.
She has a natural.
Definitely.
You can quote this when you say the shlokas.
Good pronunciation.
Too bad I don't know anyone.
That's encouragement to learn.
Thank you.
You should sit on a carpet.
Do you know what happened to the cover?
Yeah, it's here.
Okay.
I think before, where's Dominic? Anyway, I think we should put out a few of the carpets before the class, just in case anybody comes in. So, Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamam Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tvishe Namaha Nityanandam Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayane Kalau Kalamashanashaya Janavapataye Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Brindai Tulsi Debai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. My Dandavat pranams at the lotus feet of my most worshipable, beloved Diksha and Siksha Gurudevs, Nityalila Pravishta, Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Astatarashata, Sri Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. Nityalila Pravishta, Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Astatarashata, Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Asto Tarashata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And on this appearance day of another one of my Siksha Gurus, I'm offering my Dandavat pranams at the lotus feet of Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Astatarashata Sri Srila Bhakti Ballabha Tirtha Goswami Maharaj. My Dandavat pranams to all of my Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga, and my Dandavat pranams to all the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavis. So there's a number of things which I could read, but I felt that I wanted to read Srila Gurudev's Katha. Have any of you read that?
Ram Nami.
Yeah, Ram Nami Katha. Have you read it? Anyone had a chance to look at it? You did? Okay. So, and then also, I've been reading the chapter. There are 2 chapters about Lord Ram in the 9th canto, and those are very nice. But we've heard a lot of the pastimes today, especially in your early morning reading, 6 whole chapters, and then various devotees have cited different pastimes. And very, very sweet, huh? Lord Ram's appearance day. We all know that our Gurudev's early life, he took birth in a family in which he was a Ram Bhakta, right? We've all heard. Probably read also in his biography that Sri Padmanabha Maharaj wrote. And it was also mentioned about how, actually this is quite rare, to have a person who had such a very deep, deep attachment to Lord Ram, Sita Ram, and in his early life, but then later came completely to the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and fully became absorbed in the worship of Shri Shri Radha Krishna. But you probably can recall, I'll try to recall myself, but what I remember how Gurudev explained this. Naturally, his first meeting was to meet the disciple of Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who came to his village for preaching. And his name was Narottamananda Brahmachari. Later he became Bhakti Kamala Madhusudan Maharaj. And he was one of the main Siksha Gurus of Gurudev. Actually, Srila Gurudev, he would say this from time to time, that he felt himself to be so fortunate in his own life, because when he came to the Gaudiya Math, which was end of 1946, beginning of 1947, he was around, 25, 26 years old at that time. But he said, I was so fortunate because so many exalted disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur were still living and active at that time. So Gurudev considered himself to be so fortunate because he said, I was able to meet them, to hear from them, and to serve them. And so he developed a relationship with many as Siksha Guru. Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj also, from the same era, he also had, that's why we have that book, My Beloved Masters, because he's also recalling and worshipping all of his Siksha Gurus, you know. Such a wonderful presentation he's made for the benefit of everyone. And so in Srila Gurudev's life, that began his association with the movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, he had heard of him before, but now he was being exposed. But his whole life prior to that was worshipping Lord Ram, Sita Ram. And also he told that from his early childhood, he would be going to various Ramayan discussions and also Mahabharat, you know. So his whole life was very absorbed in Dharma from his early childhood.
His village, wasn't his village, Maharaj? In Bihar, the name was, what was the name again?
And what was it called again? The village? Gurudev's village.
Buxom, Tripur or something. Tree. Anyways, I looked on a map.
Yeah.
And I was trying. Huh? Yes. Tiwaripur.
Tiwaripur, yes.
Yeah. But I looked on the map where it was, and then I'm looking to Janakpuri. Janakpuri is like on the border of Bihar and what's above Bihar?
Nepal.
Yes. Isn't it? So is that why the Ram culture is so strong there?
Yeah.
And where's Ayodhya in relation to that?
I'd have to look on the map. I'm not so familiar. I've never been there.
Ayodhya is also in this area though.
Yeah.
It's in northern India.
Yeah.
Right?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's natural that area would be Ram Bhaktas.
Sure. And also Gurudev's family were high-class Brahmin family, actually. He was born in such a family. And in his life, Gurudev related to us that as he came to the Gaudiya Math and began to associate more and more, then his connection with his Guru Maharaj began, right? But approaching that, while he was still in employment in his household life, he had some darshan. There's actually a diorama exhibition in Gurudev's Samadhi in Navadvip, which is showing how Sita Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman, they appeared to him. And this was just prior also to his embracing the path of the worship of Shri Radha and Krishna. And he was so drawn to that whole story about the day when he was supposed to go into work with his police officer job, and he was so absorbed in Harinam, so absorbed, that he completely forgot to go. He was just internal, completely. But the next day, when he came, he was expecting that he was going to get chastised, right? Why didn't you come into work and all of this? But when he came, they were saying, oh, Tiwari Ji, or whatever, what he was called. I don't know how they referred to him. Oh, you did such a great deed yesterday. He said, what? Yeah, the way that you came in, we were all looking for this critically important document. No one could find it. There's stacks and stacks, and it was so important. But then when you came in, you just went and you went. From the stacks, and you found it.
That was the day he didn't go into work?
Yes.
Oh, I thought he actually did that himself.
No.
Huh? No?
Krishna did it.
Krishna came in his form and did that. Otherwise, there's no explanation, right?
Okay.
That's the fact. So,
But wasn't that I heard that he was saying that, okay, if I find this file, then it's an indication that I should go and give up my household life and go to the month. If I don't find it, then it's just an indication.
well, let's find out which story is true, which story.
Because that wouldn't be.
Because I've also heard that.
Yeah.
But mostly I've heard the first one.
Really?
Yeah, mostly.
Okay.
And of course that was to his surprise when he came and they said like that. That was a confirmation for him that Krishna will provide everything. If we are completely absorbed, and you know how Gurudev used to say that all the time, didn't he?
Yeah.
He used to tell to all of us, if you just had faith, complete faith in Harinam, and you just chanted, and everything would be arranged by Krishna.
Yeah.
He tells the story about the person who first out the Bhagavad Gita verse and then
Right. And that was a similar. Yes. So, but the diorama exhibition in his samadhi that I mentioned is depicting that very point at which Ram, Lakshman, Sita, Lakshman, Hanuman, they descended in front of him. They gave him a darshan. And they confirmed to him, do not worry, we are the same Radha and Krishna. You can worship us in that way. So this mixture of being such a high level, pure Ram Bhakta, and the mixture of also being a topmost Rasik Vaishnava, Braj Rasik, worshipper of Radha and Krishna, is quite rare. And this is the reason why Srila Gurudev's Katha, when he would speak some Ram Katha, especially by the request, of the Hindi-speaking audience, sometimes when he was in the West, and it was just so heart-melting because Gurudev's internal moods are completely absorbed in Ashtakaliya Leela of Radha and Krishna and worshipping them. And that mood of separation that is depicted in the Ramayana all the time is so akin to the gopis' moods of separation and so forth, So that's why it's quite extraordinary when Gurudev would speak even a little bit of Ram Katha. So I thought we would read, Gurudev, it's not too long. We don't really have much time. Anyway, I'll read as much as I can. We've heard some of it already today.
Stopped.
Yeah, we can play that trick sometime. We'll just take the battery out of the clock. Okay.
No, Krishna did it.
It's 7:10 right now.
Okay. Oh, that actually did stop.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Well, I have an excuse then. Okay. This was spoken by Gurudev in Mathura Math in the year 2000 on Ram Nomi. Today is a very auspicious day. It is the appearance day of Lord Sri Ram. Who is Sri Ram? He is Krishna himself, and Sita is Radhika herself. In order to establish the principles of Maryada, regulative etiquette, Krishna appeared in the form of Sri Ram. His associates also appeared in Ram Leela. Gopishwar Mahadev manifested as Hanuman.
There you go.
You can confirm what you told. Yes, manifested as Hanuman. And Baladev appeared as Lakshman. Shatrughna and Bharat are also manifestations of Krishna because they are his weapons. They are respectively Shankha and Chakra. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself read and glorified the pastimes of Sri Ram. Valmiki has described the pastimes of Ram in great detail. We heard so much about this, but when I read this yesterday, it was, I didn't know all that history very well. And then again, you read it today about Narada first coming. And so Gurudev's telling this in very short. He's saying, Valmiki has described the pastimes of Ram in great detail. He was a Siddha Mahatma, a realized soul. Popular Indian stories, they say that in his previous life he was a dacoit and he used to kill people for his living. One time he met Narada Rishi, and by that meeting his heart was transformed and he became a sadhu. According to the scriptures, Valmiki was actually the son of a great rishi. He performed austerities for a long time, and by that he became perfect. One of his disciples, a very famous rishi, was named Bharadraj. And once they both went to bathe in the river. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Govinda Ji Ki Jai. And after Valmiki took his bath, he saw a male and female crouch bird sitting in a tree. This morning I heard more about the crouch bird. Yes,
but I
birds.
think it's not, I called it a crane, but there's other descriptions where it's smaller, and cranes are big.
Yeah.
Cranes are like this
Yeah,
tall.
right.
So I think it's
Okay, it's a different
not exactly
species.
a crane. It's
Yeah.
probably
Okay.
some other.
Yes, and he saw, after Valmiki took his bath, he saw a male and female crouch bird sitting in a tree. Then a hunter struck the male bird with his bow. He killed him, and the bird fell out of the tree. Valmiki became angry and spontaneously cursed this hunter. How cruel you are! How could you do this? May all your happiness go away, and may you never be happy again in your life. When Valmiki returned to his ashram, he thought, why did I become so angry? I am supposed to be a rishi and have control over my senses. Life and death are very temporary, so why did I get disturbed by seeing this? And how did these particular words come out of my mouth? His words were very special. They had 4 gerunds, 4 lines with the same meter as the shlokas in Ramayana. He therefore wondered why these particular words and this particular meter came out from his mouth. Lord Brahma then appeared, and he said, you should write the pastimes of Lord Ram using verses which are in this meter. Then Valmiki replied, how can I do that? At that time, Narada Muni appeared, and he initiated Valmiki, and he said, you should meditate upon the pastimes of Lord Ram in samadhi, and by bhakti, all those pastimes will manifest in your heart.
Who's
Narada saying that
Narada.
to Valmiki.
Yeah, okay.
Valmiki followed those orders, and as the pastimes manifested in his heart, he began writing the Ramayana. So that was so nicely explained this morning, all the details of that. Valmiki was on the planet at the same time as Lord Ram, but before Ram enacted most of his pastimes, Valmiki had already written about them, except for one. Remember?
Yeah.
What?
The pastime of Sita Devi
Entering the earth.
entering in the earth, leaving her
Right.
body.
So why did he not write about this? Because he taught Ram's pastimes to Love and Kush. If he would have told them in advance what happened to Sita, they would have been very disturbed. Just as Vyasadeva never preached Srimad Bhagavatam, but Shukadev Goswami later preached it all over the world. So similarly, Valmiki Rishi taught Ram Lila to Love and Kush. Maharaj Dasarat is the actual father of the Lord, birth after birth, and Kaushalya is his mother. They are eternally the mother and father of Krishna in his different manifestations. Yashoda and Nanda are non-different from Dasarat and Kaushalya. Maharaj Dasarat was getting quite old, and he was disturbed that he had not begotten a son. He therefore asked his spiritual master Vashishta Rishi to perform a Pareshta Yagya, a sacrifice with the goal to get a son. Half of the kheer, the sweet rice, offered in the yagya, It was given to Kaushalya, 1/4 was given to Kaikeyi, and 1/4 to Sumitra. And then we heard today there was a little balance left over, and then that was again given to Sumitra. That's why she had the twins, right?
I've heard two versions of that.
Yeah.
That one, and the other one where Kaikeyi and Kaushalya each take a portion of theirs and give it to Sumitra.
Oh,
She needs
yeah,
to
I've
get
heard
two
that too.
portions because
Yes.
she's going to have twins.
I think that story is better. We've heard that before.
Yeah.
Right. So in due course of time, all of the queens gave birth to sons. Kaushalya to Ram, Kaikeyi to Bharat, Sumitra to Lakshman and Shatrughna. They were loved. They did childhood pranks, and they went to the ashram of Valmiki. Along with Vishwamitra Rishi, they went to Siddha ashram, and there they killed 2 demons who came to disturb the Rishi's sacrifices. He also delivered Ahalya, who by the curse of her husband had been transformed into stone. And then he said, suppose you have a fruit of amla in your hands. You can see it very clearly. Similarly, Valmiki, by the blessings of Narada, saw all these pastimes as clearly as if they were happening in front of his eyes. Hare Krishna. Dandavat. Along with Vishwamitra and Lakshman, Ram went to Janakpuri for the Swayamvara of Sita Devi. There he broke the bow of Lord Shiva, which had been given by Parasuram to Maharaj Janak. At that time, Parasuram appeared and manifested all the anger that was in his heart.
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah. And when Ram strung the bow without any effort, Parasuram then understood that Lord Ram was the Amshi. You know what Amshi means?
The original branch.
Yes. The others are Amshas, but he's the Amshi from which the Amshas come. So Parasuram understood that Lord Ram was the Amshi, the actual source from whom he himself had manifested. Lord Ram told him, now that this bow is in my hands, I have to kill something. It's a Kshatriya rule, right? Either you or that anger that is in your heart. Previously, he had to be angry in order to kill all the demoniac kings who had been ruling the earth. Now that work was over, and therefore Ram said, I should kill that anger within you. Parasuram prayed, please take out that anger which is in my heart. After Lord Ram took it away, he was transformed into a rishi, and after that he performed many austerities. Lord Ram and Sita Devi were then married and went back to Ayodhya. There is a secret meaning behind the pastime of Queen Kaikeyi asking her 2 boons from Maharaj Dasarath. Kaikeyi was not cruel. She loved Sri Ram more than she loved Bharat. You told the whole thing today. And when Ram was a young boy, he sat in the lap of Mother Kaikeyi and he requested, I want to ask you something. When I grow up and I return home after my marriage, my father will think of giving this kingdom to me. I want you to ask him to give the kingdom to Bharat and to send me to the forest for 14 years. Hearing this, Kaikeyi fainted. And when she regained consciousness, she said, I cannot do such a cruel thing. But then Lord Ram said, for the benefit of the whole world, you will have to do this. So Kaikeyi agreed. And there is another important point in this connection. When King Dasarath married Kaushalya, he did not beget any sons from her. He further married 360 queens, but still there was no son. And one day, when he was out in the forest hunting animals, he traveled all the way to the border of Afghanistan. He was very tired and therefore went to visit his friend Maharaj Kaikeya, the king of that entire area. Maharaj Kaikeya ordered his daughter to take care of the king. The next day, very pleased by her service, Maharaj Dasarath asked him if he could marry his daughter Kaikeyi. The king said, yes, you can marry her, but with one condition. If she begets a son, that son will become the king of your entire kingdom. Maharaj Dasarath replied, there is nothing that will please me more. I have no son, so if she begets a son, I will be very happy to give my entire kingdom to him. This was another reason why Bharat became the king instead of Ram. There is still another reason. One day, Bharat's maternal uncle came, and he requested Bharat and Shatrughna to accompany him for a few days. In the meantime, Ram Navami came, the appearance day of Sri Ram. And on this day, the celebration of his appearance took place, and his marriage also took place. On the day before, Maharaj Dasarath had told Vashishta that he would like to give his kingdom to Ram and make him Yuva Raj. Ram would conduct all the duties of Maharaj Dasarath in his absence, and after he would leave the world, Ram would become the king. Everyone was happy to hear this. Vashishta said, tomorrow, Ram Navami, all the planetary positions will be very auspicious. You should give him the sacred initiation tomorrow. There was no time to talk with Bharat and Shatrughna. Also, Maharaj Dasarath thought, I have already promised that I will give my kingdom to Bharat. So now, in front of him, can I give it to Sri Ram? So when Kaikeyi heard the news about Ram's coronation, she was very pleased, and she gave her garland to her maidservant Mantara. By the influence of the demigods, and because Ram had to perform his pastimes, Mantara's mind became evil. She told Kaikeyi, how can you be so foolish? If Ram becomes the king, Bharat will become a servant, and you will become a maidservant. For the rest of your life, you will have to serve Kaushalya and Sri Ram. Initially, Kaikeyi resisted and was not influenced by Mantara's words, but then she remembered Sri Ram's request to her in his youth, that she should ask Maharaj Dasarath to send him to the forest. Remembering this, she made her heart very hard. Then she went to Maharaj Dasarath and asked him for her 2 boons. Maharaj Dasarath fainted. When Lord Ram heard what happened, he was very pleased that Mother Kaikeyi had done what he had requested. He came to Maharaj Dasarath and Queen Kaikeyi, and she ordered him to go to the forest, saying that this was also the desire of Maharaj Dasarath. You follow?
Maharaj, I just want to say, can I
Yeah.
say one thing?
Yeah.
I get so overwhelmed sometimes when I think of what Kaikeyi did.
Yeah.
Because she could have just said, look, everybody is criticizing me and Ram told me to do it, right? She had to keep this to herself. Ram said, don't tell anyone, but you need to do this for me. So she underwent so much suffering. Such a sacrifice.
Yeah.
More than Kaushalya, more than Sumitra, more than anybody.
That's right.
For Ram's pastimes. She was one of the main characters to unfold this.
Right.
Without her taking the courage, can you imagine? I mean, she loves Ram.
Yeah.
She had to stand up to Dasarath and force him
Yeah.
to take those boons and give them to her,
Yeah.
and play this drama like she is a terrible person. Right? She had to play that drama in her heart. She loves Ram, but she had to go through this whole drama, this whole Leela, just to please Ram. And everyone was against her.
Even her own son rejected her, wouldn't call her mother. Yeah.
How glorious is Mother Kaikeyi.
And for all future generations, everyone is thinking she's the bad person.
And even now, most people think
Even
she's
now.
the bad person.
Right.
Before, we all heard this story, right?
Yeah.
Until Gurudev explained this. I don't know, did anyone
I never heard it
this
before.
when
No.
we were in ISKCON?
No.
Nobody understood, right?
No.
Kaikeyi is
she was influenced by
understood.
Yeah, Mantara.
but only from Gurudev.
Yeah.
Kaikeyi, we all thought Kaikeyi was a tyrant.
Yeah.
She was the one that
Yeah. So selfish.
did this.
So evil.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Srila Maharaj said there's a parallel story about Judas.
About?
Judas.
Oh, Judas. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a little different though.
Same energy though.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway. Jai. Yeah, it is heartbreaking when you hear about that and you actually try to think deeply about what it must have been like for her to do that. And that's why Gurudev informed us that actually who had the most love for Ram? Who had the most love out of any of the associates? Kaikeyi. Yes.
More than Sita. Maybe not including Sita. Not including Sita in the mix, right? Outside of Sita.
Yeah, outside of Sita. But yeah, I mean, she, even when Ram was a small boy, she had more love for him than she did for her own son, Bharat. Right? So when Ram was exiled and was living in Chitrakoot, Bharat, accompanied by many citizens, went there to request him to return to Ayodhya. On his way to see Ram, they also passed by Bharadvaj Rishi's ashram. Bharadvaj requested Bharat, please be our guests for a day here. You should rest and take prasad. But Bharat replied that he had come with lakhs of people. Almost the entire population of Ayodhya has come with me, he said. How could they all fit in your ashram? But Bharadvaj said, please give me a chance to serve you. By his mystic power, Bharadvaj manifested an entire city, which was greater and more opulent than Ayodhya. For each of the queens there was a Raj Bhavan. There were so many kinds of food and preparations, just like Anakut. Mountains of prasad were created and everyone was served. Kaikeyi also went to Ram. And she said, I was the one who asked for the boon that you be banished to the forest. Since I was the one who asked you to go, now I take it back. Now I am asking you to come back. Then Lord Ram replied, no, the command was not only from you. You and Father both asked it together. Father is here no more, and you are only half, 50%. I don't know if it is his desire or not, so I cannot go back. There was an assembly meeting held wherein Maharaj Janak spoke with Bharat. Janak Maharaj described the meaning of praying. He said that real love is to understand what pleases the beloved. Janak said, if it is Lord Ram's desire to stay here, then it is better to follow what he wants and not try to force your desire on him. Ram, Lakshman, and Sita Devi then traveled to Chitrakoot. There, Ram performed Jalanjali, offering water to the ancestors. Actually, Maharaj Dasarat had never died, so ultimately there was no point of his doing this. However, since he was performing Naravat Lila, human-like pastimes, so he offered the water. Sita and Ram went to the ashram of Anasuya, who gave Sita a special Anga Vastra that even if she didn't eat, her body would never dwindle. That is why, when she was at Ravana's place, although she never ate any food given by Ravan for a whole year, her body never dwindled. Anasuya was the wife of Atri Muni, who had performed great austerities. By these austerities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh had all appeared. She made them become her little children, and all their wives came requesting her to please let them go. So she turned the three deities into little children. Then heard the wives came, can you please restore them? We need our husbands back. Agastya Rishi, he gave Ram the bow with which he killed Ravana. Then Suparnaka came and Lakshman cut off her nose. Then Ram killed Kara and Dusha. Kara means donkey. He next killed a demon named Trisura. Ravana then came to revenge Suparnaka's dishonor. He stole Sita. Ram killed Maricha. They met Sabari, and then at Kishkinda they met Hanuman. Hanuman first appeared to them in the form of a Brahmin to test if they were really Ram and Lakshman. Later, at Rishi Mukha Parvat Hill, Sugriva met Lord Ram, and they made a treaty of friendship there. After Sugriva explained what Bali had done to him, Lord Ram killed Bali.
So Suparnaka was the real cause for Ram coming after Sita then, right?
Not fully, because he'd already heard of Sita, right, before that, right?
Right, but that was the impetus for him to come.
Yeah, that was the excuse for him to come. Yeah. Oh, that's the end of Gurudev's Katha. He probably had a certain amount of time, and he only went that far.
Right at the same time that we're.
Did you reset that clock? No, it's moving.
Yeah, it's 7:32.
Yeah.
Is at the altar.
Yes, he is. And that means that very soon. So anyway, today was a very blissful day, huh? Ramayana narrations. You get quite absorbed. It's very alluring to hear all these Ramayana pastimes. And, you know, it's shorter than Mahabharata, because Mahabharata is 100,000 shlokas, and we learned today that this is 24,000 shlokas, you know. And so Ramayana, as Gurudev told, is very pathetic. That's the thing about it. And people like to cry. People like to feel that, what do you call it? Ethos, eros?
Pathos.
Pathos, that's the thing, pathos. Human beings like to do that. So Mahabharata, of course, is also, there's so many pastimes and so many, heartbreaking episodes, the whole thing. But Ramayana is very particularly sweet. It's very simple pastime. One time I heard Gurudev say, what is the Ramayana? You can narrow the Ramayana down to simply Ram was banished, Sita was stolen, Hanuman jumped, they built a bridge, Ram came and killed Ravana, then returned to Ayodhya. That's the whole plot, the whole pastime. But yet, for eons, for kalpas, practically speaking, eternally, Ramayana, in the material universes created by the various Brahmas, by Lord Vishnu, Ramayana is eternal. Lord Ram is eternal. There's an eternal Ayodhya in Vaikuntha, in the topmost part of Vaikuntha. All of his associates are his eternal associates. And it's a very, very special pastime, which brings so much purification and bliss to the whole human society when they hear it. And that's why, in the modern day, these various movie makers, script writers, and so forth, they take from the Ramayana. You know that the whole Star Wars trilogy is the Ramayana. Did you know that? Yes. The princess gets kidnapped. They have the little furry animal Ewoks in the forest who are depicting the monkeys. Yeah. Darth Vader, who's he? Anyone know? Ravana. So that whole thing was fashioned after the Ramayana, and it became so popular. But nothing can compare when one day they will use that technology to actually make a really high-class movie of Ramayana and also Mahabharata. Nothing will be able to compare with that. Because all these science fiction movies and all these special effects that they use and everything, it's all jada, you know? It's all just mundane. There's no taste, no taste. But every single little episode of these transcendental pastimes of the Lord, right? They're all relishable, tasteful, purifying, uplifting. So, Srila Prabhupada also wanted to see that. That's why he made those exhibitions, you know, depicting the pastimes, the diorama exhibitions and so forth. So someday, I've heard that, you know, various Indian producers and directors, they want to do that.
Yeah.
They want to make it
all the latest technology.
with all the latest. Yeah.
Ramananda Sagars is good, but it's still
Yeah.
not on a same level as the
Right.
Bollywood film.
Yeah, but if they do that, and can you imagine, I said this years ago, if Lord Nrsingadev, the Prahlad story, were depicted with that kind of technology,
Oh, yeah.
Nrsingadev, I mean, they make all these, we've seen them in different, you know, movies, but the actual Lord Nrsingadev, the battle, you know, and trying to kill Prahlad, and that would be so beneficial for the human society. So I'm just ending with this, that this is what we must do. You know, the Krishna consciousness movement is for broadcasting the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Radha and Krishna to the whole world. So eventually that has to take place.
Yes, sir. It's would the seva of Kaikai be on the same level?
Kaikei.
On the same level as where Lord Shiva doing the things that nobody else wanted to do, or the gopis taking the dust from their feet.
Yeah, self-sacrifice, absolute self-sacrifice.
Which is better? Not better.
Well, we can't judge.
I know.
Nobody can compare with the gopis, right?
Their whole life.
Yeah.
Was there ever any acceptance by Braj of Kaikei at any point?
I don't know. Okay. Thank you very much. Gaur Premanande. Shri Ram Chandra Bhagavan ki jai. Shri Ramayan